Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. I hope each and every single one of you are having a fantastic day, night, morning, whenever you're listening to this. I appreciate you giving me some of your time today. Welcome to episode 246 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. It is just myself this week. I decided to give Karak, my co-host, the week off because this episode in particular, I wanted to sit down and directly talk with the audience. This last week in my personal life, it's been pretty rough, and so I just wanted to sit down and talk to you guys because I've been a little absent on social media. I haven't been as interactive in the Patron Discord, so I wanted to just chat with you guys about some things, and then we'll get into our typical role here on the podcast, talking about what we're playing, some of the gaming news that's come up this week. It's been really interesting to see how the industry is developing during this pretty tough time. I hope each and every single one of you are also staying safe out there. I should have said that in the beginning too. But anyway, yeah, this week, like I said, it's been tough. It's been a tough time for all of us, of course. All of our lives have been impacted in one way or another. But yeah, this week, ladies and gentlemen, I did lose my Mimi. She is my grandmother. She's lived around the corner from my house for my entire life. I've known nothing else. She has been a complete mainstay in my life and one of the biggest, most positive influences I could ever ask for. And normally, as a motor mouth, someone who talks for a living, I've always got something to say, but this was one of the rare times I just took some peace and quiet in and didn't talk and didn't make a video talking about what's happening and trying to communicate with my audience. I took a couple of days, I took a breather and just absorbed the loss and thought over things and did my mourning and all that. And it was a tough time. It's one of the closest people I'll ever have in my life who's now no longer there. And so I just wanted to make sure people know. Sometimes I was a little more, I'm not interactive in the comments all too frequently because it can get just toxic in general with the nature of YouTube. But sometimes I did just without hesitation clap some people because I couldn't help myself. It was definitely a stress reliever, but I don't take pride in doing that. I don't like being that YouTuber who like screenshots a dumb comment and post it on Twitter, which I still didn't do, but I'm saying in general, I just don't like putting people on blast like that because I know what it feels like to be put on blast, and it's definitely an uncomfortable feeling. But I don't take pride in just, completely slam dunking on folks, and I more certainly pride myself on my connection, my interaction with you all, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram. I like doing that. I enjoy it. It's not really a negative aspect of my life. But I stepped away and it was nice. I got some healing time in, but I know my Mimi, and I know some people may just without hesitation be like, Matt, take some days off, Matt, take care of yourself. I'm okay. And my work absolutely keeps me sane. It keeps me healthier, keeps me happier. And it gives me something to focus on. It's been a long time coming. It's something that I was aware of that was, heading our way. Her health had been declining for a number of months, and for about the last year and a half or so, my life has been running around that. She could not, like, for example, walk to the bathroom by herself. So every hour or so, even when I was working, which I don't know if anyone noticed, there were sometimes points in videos where I missed like an audio drop off or the music was too loud. These were times where I was trying to run from my house to her house, and essentially my family was balancing two homes at the same time because we couldn't afford full-time care for her. And so we were pretty much like feeding her, helping her go to the bathroom, or I'm sorry, I should say get to the bathroom. And so my mom would have to work. And so like I would have to handle it during the day. And then when she came home, my work day would really start at like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was really tough to balance, but eventually I moved my upload schedule around. Now you guys know I pretty consistently upload at 7 at night, which ended up being a positive thing. More people started tuning in when I started doing that. But there were things that got pushed out, like streaming. I just couldn't act like I was really in a happy place, or feel good streaming, or even have leisure time to myself. Streaming just sort of cramped it up. So I felt like now, with everything being said and done, some folks could get some answers that maybe weren't there initially, or maybe confused you or thought it was like an out of place move by me. Like, I edit all my videos. For me to completely miss music being blaringly loud, like that just says a lot about how sometimes I was in a rush to get things done. Part of it was my own fault, right? Like I didn't have to upload every single day, but like I said, my work is my pride. I'm proud of what I've built here. I want to continue to build here and in other places and do other things. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know what my life's kind of been like for the last year and a half directly. And that's sort of why I told Karak to just, if he wouldn't mind stepping down for this week, so I could speak directly and just talk to pretty much you guys one-on-one. I like to do this if I'm able to. Hopefully in the future it can be a more positive reasoning, but I just thought that this was a good place to address it. Sometimes in the past, for those of you who've been longtime fans, like when I went through like a really rough breakup, like I made a video just kind of talking out my feelings. And I wasn't like talking shit or anything, but I was just talking about how I felt like I was in a rut, and I just don't want to be that anymore. You know, I haven't been like, you know, when there's an issue in my life, talking about it in a video, because part of it was coping. But you guys are here for entertainment, content, games discussion. You know, I'm not your therapist. You're not my therapist. You know how it works. And so I think it's only fair. And, you know, I received a lot of messages. A lot of people reached out because I did tweet like, tonight's really sad. Like, I just appreciate some good vibes. I didn't want to make the announcement. I didn't want to draw a ton of attention. I just really wanted to just tell people like, hey, I'm hurting a little bit. And, you know, people were sending me funny videos and stuff. I had a ton of friends reach out. It was pretty ridiculous because a lot of my personal friends were aware of my situation and what I was handling, and it was tough. And so they were like immediately on it and kind of knew. And it's like I felt weird if I had to like individually text everyone like, hey, meet me past. Hey, meet me past. It was just like I felt like I was kind of going for attention, where I just was like, you know, let me just put out a tweet and just let people know I'm in a sad place, not a dark place. I'm just in a sad place. And it became exponentially harder because before all this, she was in the hospital. We know that this virus has been going around. We thought she was going to pass in the hospital, and it was really scary because it was like, we can't even go say goodbye to her. We can't go talk to her, see what's up. And that was the toughest part of it all, because then she came home and she was just kind of out of it. She came back every now and then. One time she did come back and ask for my brother and I, and we sprinted over and pretty much had our last conversation with her. And, you know, it's just insane how it all went down. What felt like one of the longest periods of my life, it was actually really quick. But, you know, I don't want to focus too much on the sadness, because I do know who she is. She is just one of the best people I've ever met. And I couldn't ask for a better grandmother. So to those of you who just gave me some of your time today to hear what I had to say in this introduction before we get into our standard podcast, thank you. Genuinely thank you. You guys giving me purpose to create, listening to me. I just can't put into words the peace of mind that brought me. You know, if I were, and this is no disrespect to anyone, but if I were working at like a grocery store or whatever, and this whole situation was going on, I would have lost my mind. I really would have. And it was really stressful, intense. I don't want to act like it was okay. It was really not. It was not like a healthy way of living, but we had no choice. It's not like I come from a family with a lot of money. So it was tough. But, you know, I tried to like offer to help my parents financially, but they're like, no, like we're not going to have our kid help us. But I get that. I understand that. Kind of a pride thing. But yeah, man. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get into our standard podcast. We hope you're all doing well once more. Now that that part's out of the way, let's talk about what we're playing. So for me, I have been playing a lot of different games. Like I said, it's been a tough week, so I've just been sinking myself into tons of games, and it's been a real big healer. It's been a nice distraction, and with all this ample free time, it's kind of just been my go-to. It's either I exercise or I end up playing a ton of games in this spare time. There's no sports to watch. There's no friends to go hang out with. My girlfriend and I made the mature decision that we're not going to see each other for the foreseeable future, just because her parents are around the city a lot in New York City. And so we just, you know, we can't, with them in contact with what is essentially the epicenter. We can't risk it, because then I could come home with something and give it to my family. So we just, sadly, on our 2-year anniversary, had to make that decision. So it's been either FaceTiming or calling on the phone. And when it's not that, it's workouts or tons of games. So for me, I've been playing Persona 5 Royal. I have 11 hours in it. I just finished the first palace. I definitely would have had a lot more hours in this game, but something happened in the review copy pipeline. I was promised a copy 2 weeks ahead of time, when the embargo had lifted. I think it was like March 16th. I was promised a copy, and then Sega ended up taking over handling review copies. And from that point, I just became a name on the list. Like, I was working directly with someone who was hosting the event that I got sick and I couldn't go to, but someone was hosting a Persona 5 Royal preview event, and I was working with them, and they said, if you can't make it, we're going to get you a review copy. Don't worry. They ended up losing the distribution of the review copies, and Sega handled it. And when I contacted 3 times via email, no response came through until the person who was, I guess you could say, representing me stepped in. And by that point, it was like the day before launch day, and I had already bought the game. So unfortunately, I didn't get as much time as I could have had on it. Also, I was reviewing Doom Eternal, and I was just, doing what any creator does, which is, okay, you're not going to give me a copy, or something happened in the pipeline, I'm going to just go do other games and not wait on them. That's a mistake I've made in the past. I used to wait on a lot of companies to hand me games when I'm just like, you know what? I'm the creator here. I've got to try my best to make my own success and make fun content for my viewers. How can I do that with the means I have at hand? Not waiting for people to help me out, essentially. So yeah, I have 11 hours in Persona 5 Royal. I've really, really liked what's there. At first, I was kind of disappointed. Like, the first few hours, I'm like, I'm playing Persona 5. That's the thing. I'm playing Persona 5, which, for those of you who are familiar with Persona 4 Golden, it's sort of a similar situation. Except Royal really, after you get deep into that first palace, kicks it up with some of the quality of life improvements. I actually have a list. I wrote it down while I was playing the game. It was across my room, so I had to go up and get it. And I just wrote down some of the new things that have changed in here. I don't even know if I'll do a video on this. I just like to write things down, I guess, which sounds weird in practice, but it helps me remember, I guess. But disaster shadows are a new thing. So essentially what happens is if you kill this disaster shadow, it will explode and do tons of damage to nearby shadows, which are the enemies you're fighting. But if you don't kill them or you miss your attack, these are like counterattack shadows, so they won't bother you. But if you miss or you don't kill them, they are going to hit you back twice as hard. So there's that give and take there. You got to make sure you target their weakness and destroy them as soon as possible. There's new boss mechanics. So I was fighting Kamoshida's palace ruler, and I won't spoil it, but there was this one part I was like, oh my God, like, this is a whole new mechanic, and it changed the whole dynamic of the boss fight and how you had to approach it. It was this whole new target you had to take down, and it fit the story. It made you hate him even more. By the way, Kamoshida, easily like a top 10 most hateable villain of all time. Like, oh my God, can't stand this guy. I'll just let you guys play the game for yourself. Still, Persona 5 has one of the most dark, intense, first 10 hours I've seen in a game. They touch on physical abuse and I don't even want to touch on the themes too hard because it is very much a discovery thing. So we'll just leave it at the abuse part. Grapple hooks have been added into the dungeons, so now you can have a lot more verticality in this game. It also makes Joker's up B and smash make a little more sense outside of just aesthetics. Less Morgana, she got nerfed finally, or he got nerfed. Sorry, I forget the actress is the one who voiced him. But anyway, yeah, Morgana got nerfed. So after dungeons, you can still, or I'm sorry, I keep saying dungeons because I'm used to Persona 4 palaces. After palaces, you can go into LeBlanc, which is like the place that you're staying, and you can do like studying, you can do a crossword puzzle, you can read a book, you can watch a DVD, you can play a game. So some of the extras content that put a lot of pressure on you to make these day-to-day choices are now available to you at the right time. And it's like, thank you, Morgana. Thank you for not stopping me every step of the way. I really appreciate it. And this is more apparent in the early game because later on it's like, okay, in the evenings you can go out. Like eventually Sojiro says you can leave, and that's good. But when it stands in the early game, it's been vastly improved. There were like little quality of life changes, like Haru kind of randomly appears later on in the game and you're like, where did you come from? But you actually see her in the school. You see Makoto walking around the school. So there are things like that too, which I think are great. They're quality of life improvements. So there's a sense of continuity, a familiarity within the entire group on the whole situation. Like they've been subliminally all going through it together without really knowing it. There are will seeds also in the palaces now, and these will seeds will recover SP when you find them. And when you get all of them together, they create this accessory. Even a solo podcast we can't do without the dog barking. Anyway, these will seeds will combine and they'll create an accessory unique to that palace, and you can turn them into mementos, and mementos will allow you to change it into this very busted item. Apparently, I haven't gotten that far yet. That's also why I haven't made a video on Persona 5 Royal. There's just too many changes and improvements deeper in the game, in such a long game, that you have to wait to really see it. The dungeons themselves have been expanded because of some of these mechanics, like will seeds are in these completely separate rooms. The grapple hook adds verticality, so there's more rooms to explore above you. That type of stuff makes these places bigger, which is good. There's improved shadow interrogation. At first, it was really vague. It was like one of the negative parts of the game, in my opinion, because you could, when you kill a shadow, interrogate them, have them remember themselves, and they become a part of your personality, aka a persona that you can use to like fight other enemies. And it was nice. But it was hard to identify, like, if they were gloomy or upbeat or whatever. And so you had to match that persona. Now Morgana chips in and tells you what their personality is, and you make choices in the conversation to kind of complement them and help them remember themselves. Lastly, what I've got so far, at least, and there's definitely more, is challenge battles. Challenge battles in Persona 5 Royal are available in the Velvet Room. And what these do is allow you to take on, if you have the DLC for Royal, you can like fight Yu Narukami from Persona 4. You can fight Makoto from, I think Makoto Yuki is his name. I'm not 100% sure, but you can fight Makoto from Persona 3. And it has like all the music from that game and stuff, and it's fully voiced. But you can also just fight in an arcade style, like other shadows, and get rewards for them. So there's bonus content like that. So that's been the last 11 hours of my playtime. Sorry, these solo podcasts, I just have to pause and drink, you know. But that's been the last 11 hours of my playtime. Before that was Doom Eternal. I put about 20 hours in total into that game. Really like that game more than I ever expected. I liked Doom 2016. I think it's one of Bethesda's best games they've published, and it's one of their best games. And making that review just showed me too, like I was reading some of the comments, like when I complimented Bethesda's publishing department, because I said it's been since 2017 that Bethesda, I said, published a good game like Prey. A lot of people thought, like, I think a lot of people still don't know the difference between Bethesda Softworks and game studios. But yeah, it did a fantastic job with this game. As someone who wasn't like a diehard fan of 2016, but did just enjoy it, but felt the pacing wasn't that good and that fell off, I was really happy with Eternal. And I've seen more people contributing on my side of the discussion that I've been saying when it comes to Doom 2016, now that Eternal's out and it's so good that it's like, wow, wait, this is what we wanted. Some folks have been saying, oh man, it's just an upgraded version of 2016. They didn't do much. And I guess I kind of get that, but it's just such subtle things put into the gameplay, like air dashes and not being glued to the ground, double jumps, and the arsenal coming at you a little bit quicker, and breakups in the pacing, like with the cutscenes and platforming, that make it so freaking better. And then there's things like level design, which you can't just say like this level here and this arena is particularly why the game is good. It's just consistently great level design that makes these shooting fests so enjoyable. And so that's why some people you're going to see say, oh, it's just Doom 2016 2.0. And it's like, well, technically, yeah, but there's so much that happened underneath the hood that made this game way better. But I have a full, I think, 15-minute review on my channel for those who are curious about that. I don't need to go on about that any longer because I already dedicated content to that. Anything else I've been playing? I kind of dropped Animal Crossing. I was shocked, actually, when we were checking our hours. I've seen people with like 150 hours, and I'm like, okay, all right, settle down, 120. I'm not in that department. But as someone who really wasn't like enjoying it that much, I was really surprised I hit 25 or more hours according to my Nintendo profile. It is one of those games where you just pick it up like, oh, quick 30 minutes here. It ends up lasting longer than that. But yeah, as I said last week, and I said it on Twitter, Animal Crossing just really isn't I don't want to say it isn't my jam. It's just, I think it's kind of overhyped, if I'm honest. And even my girlfriend, who's like obsessed with Animal Crossing, we actually just returned to our podcast, BFGF AFK, for those who do want a little more Matty. We're available on Spotify and whatnot. But anyway, and we're also on the Patreon, I should say that. But anyway, she even was like, yeah, it was kind of overhyped, but she really likes it. And she's got like 35 plus hours in it, and she's still enjoying it. So, it's interesting to see that conversation, but Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I've been playing. Nothing else comes to mind. So with that, let's get ahead into the gaming news. You're going to hear me clicking around a bit this episode because I don't have to account for a face camera because it's just me. So you're going to hear me like clicking to web pages and stuff as I gather the news we're going to talk about. As the show is headlined and labeled for YouTube, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR being delayed, and some subsequent information that came out afterwards from Jason Schreier. So let's start off with the update from PlayStation. Update: SIE has made the difficult decision to delay the launch of The Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel's Iron Man VR until further notice. Logistically, the global crisis is preventing us from the launch experience our players deserve. They followed this up by saying, currently, there are no other delays to report, but we will keep you updated, and people are still trying to tell me the PS5's coming out this year. I don't really think so. That's what I said a couple of weeks ago. I said it on Twitter because we have Xbox, who pretty much got ahead of what was happening with the virus and started factories which were producing Xbox Ones well ahead of this virus. Like they went to, I think, Vietnam and a couple of other countries and whatnot. And this helped them get ahead of, because what's important to note is with this global crisis going on is that everyone's manufacturing plants that were based in China were now affected and they had to go elsewhere. So it started to become a first comes, first serve thing. So to know that Microsoft was ahead of the ball and their production continued on, they may be ahead of Sony a little bit, where they didn't anticipate things spiraling too much out of control. Maybe they trusted the situation in China would get under wraps a little quicker. And so I think that we may not see PS5 until early 2021, as I had initially predicted, just given Sony's initial silence as well. It just seems that way, but that is speculation. Maybe PlayStation was ahead of the ball, but anyway, they have delayed The Last of Us Part 2 and Marvel Iron Man until further notice. What's interesting about this is what Jason Schreier said afterwards. He said, The Last of Us Part 2 was on track for May. Multiple developers have told me. The primary reason for the delay is the challenge of printing, shipping, and selling physical games right now. Going remote has not stopped those still working on the game, such as QA, from crunching. Hopefully this delay helps. So yeah, I mean, we do know that there was a bit of crunch with The Last of Us Part 2, and in Naughty Dog culture, they had recently been fairly exposed for that. A question that Jason Schreier did get is, why wouldn't they just release digitally? It's so much better and convenient. This is where things get even more interesting. He says, Sony is already throttling PSN download speeds. Imagine what a catastrophe it'd be if millions of people tried to download the game at once. He says, I also believe they ran the numbers and decided they miss out on too many physical sales. So this does mean, in my opinion, from what he's written at least, this is just me inferring information, is that games will continue to be developed remotely. It sounds like The Last of Us Part 2, since he states the primary reason for the delay was the challenge of printing, shipping, and selling physical games. Considering that the internet's in the state it is now, where a lot more people are online and they have to slow down some of the speeds, it seems like making the game won't be the problem. So if you're like an indie developer, this might be a good year for you, because digitally, will there be millions and millions of people coming through the floodgates, kind of like with The Last of Us Part 2? Probably not, unless you're a very special indie title, which I'm not saying is impossible. But I think this is good news in one way, that work can continue on in a mostly unimpacted manner. Hopefully this does relieve the crunch that is one of the primary concerns. But yeah, I thought that this whole delay had brought out an interesting conversation. I feel like people should have been talking about it already, because Wasteland was delayed to, I believe it was August 28th because of this virus, and it was supposed to come out in May. It was a month away, which is when I was saying, hey, this virus is going to send a lot of games back, a lot more than we expect. And I'm sure that's still the case. Because actually Jason Schreier did reply to another tweet. Someone said, are there any other companies you're expecting imminent delays from? And Jason said, all of them, which is true. Yeah, a lot of people think that because the game industry has released like 18 games in the last month, that no one's going to delay anything. But it's just that these games were so close to done that they were able to pop them out last minute here. We even see something like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which, I mean, would they move it back a handful of weeks initially before all this blew up just to do some last touches? And that short amount of weeks prevented them from doing a full-on physical launch. I mean, that to me is amazing. It's not amazing in a good way. It's just, it's fascinating, right? And people were getting it early in Australia, and we still can't download it though. It's really, really odd. And so yeah, man, it's gonna be a weird time. That's why I immediately, when I started seeing this news, my first thought was I'm going to put together a video at some point down the line of backlog games that people maybe haven't thought of, because eventually we're going to see these releases start to slow down, like Ghost of Tsushima. You're telling me that they're going to delay The Last of Us, but they're not going to delay Ghost of Tsushima? Come on. That's definitely getting delayed. I just don't think Sony wanted to act too swiftly. Maybe also just given the culture and the status of Naughty Dog, they wanted to fully take advantage of every sale there, whereas initially Ghost of Tsushima was tucked behind The Last of Us, and people viewed it as a protective shield. This could also bring about speculation that this delay had been known about internally for a while, and that they were putting Ghost of Tsushima in June because The Last of Us wasn't going to be a month before it. So there's a lot to peel apart here. It's like an onion. It's an onion bit of news. And so for me, I just found it a really interesting topic. Hopefully, though, there's not crunching, and I imagine we'll see more. With my luck, we're recording this on Friday at 6:02. It's April 3rd, 2020, of course, and I guarantee by the time this is up, we'll have a bunch more delays, and this podcast will be in a little time capsule, and that'll be most unfortunate. But yeah, I feel like I want to get back to the consoles a little bit. I do wonder if, because I did state how I think PlayStation 5 will be delayed. I said this before all this just because of Sony's silence, but now if they're indefinitely pushing back games, I can't see how a console's getting put together, especially because they're waiting so long to just show consumer-focused details. They tucked developer-focused details. But yeah, I just wanted to touch base with this because maybe even with these additional factories that we know Microsoft got in touch with, and they did get producing on the Xbox, does that really change anything if this has become such a global catastrophe? That's another perspective worth considering here. So yeah, man, it's almost like the world is at a standstill outside of the games industry. And I think it's because it's such a means of digital consumption. People think it's going to continue to flow. And I think, like, when you look at even Wastelanders, they're saying because of the situation, they pushed it back a week. And like, I found that crazy. That had been tested for so long on the PTS. I thought there was no doubt that Wastelanders was staying where it was. But yeah, now it's coming out the 14th of April. And by the way, this is a good time to say, we are going to have Juicehead on next week for the Wastelanders launch. We're gonna talk to him about the game, the expansion, what we hope to see together, and it should be a good time. It's been long overdue to get Juicy Juice here on the show. We've talked a ton in person, but just like never ever got together on a collaboration. It's just, that's the thing with covering Bethesda games. It's so tough to collaborate on them because the only relevant multiplayer game, like, and I say relevant in the terms of, I was a Fallout content creator, Juicehead was, like Camelworks was, like we were all Fallout guys, and then like they dropped this relevant Fallout Online title, and we were all talking about like collabs and doing stuff together and like how good of a time it's going to be. Like, we're going to make this huge group and it's going to be sick. And then like the game just flops and you're like, well, there goes that. That sucks. So yeah, it's just tough for us to collab with these types of games outside of just discussions on major topics. So that's what the podcast will serve as. We're going to talk about Wastelanders. I'm sure we'll get more info leading up to it. But yeah, I thought that was a good time to announce that. All right. Let's move on into the news a little bit more. I just got to mark down the timestamps. This is usually a little bit easier when I'm able to pass it off to Karak while he's talking. I'll just write it all down. Anyway, our second bit of news here is about Modern Warfare 2. Now, this was a telegraphed drop. We knew this was coming for a while. We'd heard murmurs of it being remastered years ago. And what's fascinating about this, I'm going to take a drink for a little dramatic pause. What's fascinating about this is that this game has been ready for 2 years. It has been ready for 2 years, and they decided to drop it now. And they dropped it now with an exclusive deal. So it won't be for another month that you can get this on Xbox One and PC. Furthermore, it is only Modern Warfare 2's campaign. It's $20. I think a lot of people were sort of freaking out about the wrong thing in my perspective. Like, I was freaking out more so because why is it just the Modern Warfare 2 campaign? Like, are you kidding me? When I talk MW2, man, like, I don't give a damn. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that. I like the campaign, but I think of multiplayer, like, oh my God, outside of One Man Army Noob Tubes, that multiplayer was so crispy. And to have them maybe come back with a remastered version, nerf some things that desperately needed to be, and actually have it fixed. Oh my God, man, that would have been so good. It would have even pulled me back in. But they did just the campaign. That's why I was freaking out. For a lot of people, though, it was about this 1 month exclusivity window. And some people were saying, like, why in this dire time is Activision holding up an exclusive deal? And I'm like, is anyone actually surprised? It's motherfucking Activision. They suck so much ass. So I'm quite frankly not fucking surprised at all. Like, they are so shitty. So for them to do an exclusive deal in the middle of a pandemic and say, hey, sorry, you got to be a PlayStation fan, that's kiss my ass. You know, that's what I say. No shot I'm buying it. But I did find a GameSpot article titled, Here's Why Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 Remastered does not include multiplayer. I thought for those of you who were like me and thinking, where the hell is it? This would be a timely article. And this was actually just posted today as we record this a few hours ago. So it should be pretty fresh by the time it gets out to the masses. All right. In a blog post, Activision said it decided against releasing Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer as a standalone pack and instead favored the... I get exhausted reading this. Favored the idea of launching additional classic map experiences within Modern Warfare over time. What the hell is this shit? Rather than release a separate multiplayer experience as a standalone pack like any normal company, Activision and Infinity Ward are looking to bring more classic map experiences to new life within Modern Warfare universe as it continues to grow and build over time, the publisher says. With the release of Modern Warfare in 2019, Activision said it started to focus on bringing players together seamlessly in one unified online multiplayer playground. The game supports crossplay, and all DLC packs are free for everyone. So the good news is it's good because you're not going to have to pay money to experience the multiplayer maps. There is already Rust that's been put into the game. But yeah, this... Oh my God. Like I'm sorry. I know a lot of people really raved about Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I thought that game just felt so clunky. And I played a decent amount of it. I played competitively on it for a couple of weeks, and I run some pub matches, and it did not feel good. I felt Black Ops 4 felt infinitely better. Something was completely different with the new engine they're using. I did not play the campaign, though. I've heard that was pretty good. But I'm kind of over, unless I'm reviewing it, like the last time I did was in Infinite Warfare, I think. Call of Duty World War II. If I'm reviewing it, like, yeah, I'll hop into the campaign. It's a part of the package, and I'll be more interested and have a business interest more so in it. But when it comes to me as a consumer, like, I don't want to spend my money on these 5-hour shoot-a-thons. It just blows my mind that suddenly they're like, we're keeping it in a unified multiplayer playground as if they're not releasing a new Call of Duty this year. And I think it would behoove them to have released a new multiplayer Call of Duty this year, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remastered, just multiplayer. Because think of it this way. Let's say this pandemic continues on. It does impact the development that Activision usually has for its games, right? Now suddenly they can't get out their annual Call of Duty in a complete package, although I would not be shocked at all if Activision rushed it out and just ruined the world even more. But let's say that they don't. Now you have the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer to release later on. And hell, if they sat on the campaign for this long, I wouldn't be surprised if there was remastered multiplayer they were sitting on to make sure that, hey, maybe this new Call of Duty does come to fruition. If it doesn't, we've got this in our back pocket. I just don't know why, if you've sat on it for 2 years, you've had this campaign for 2 years, and you say, yeah, I'm going to launch it now when the world is in turmoil and we're going to have an exclusive deal. I imagine, I'm smart enough to say, hey, there are things that are just written in ink And whenever Activision chose to announce this, that it had to be Sony exclusive, that was on paper. And Sony's not going to say, oh, tough shit. We're not backing out. I just think like the time, it just waited out, right? Like it's already there. What's happening? I don't know. Maybe Activision foresaw that because there was going to be such a dip in the economy, put something out there now for people to buy. And maybe they viewed it as more of a long-term thing because it's exclusive to PS4 and then it gets a second win on Xbox One and PC. I don't know, guys, but I thought it was foolish. I would really, really, really like to see them to bring back the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer separately. Just because I'm not interested in playing Modern Warfare, right? I do like that people will get it for free. That's good for the consumer. Certainly not going to complain about that. But there's your explanation on why Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 released just the campaign and not the multiplayer. All right. Let's continue this on and talk about, let's see what I have next on my list here. Mario. Oh gosh, yeah. This one was crazy. This one seemed like out of a dream. And I mean that maybe in a good way or a bad way, depending on how much you like Mario. So this information comes from GameInformer.com. Mario is one of the most iconic characters in video games, so every one of his birthdays is worth celebrating. If recent reports are to be believed, Nintendo may be planning an impressive celebration that includes Switch re-releases of many of Mario's best games. Eurogamer and Video Games Chronicle reported that Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy will all get re-releases sometime this year. Additionally, Nintendo is working on a new Paper Mario title and a deluxe version of Super Mario 3D World that includes new levels. If true, these details are very exciting, but we may also soon hear new details on Nintendo's / Universal's upcoming Mario theme park, as well as the upcoming animated Super Mario Bros. Movie. A few weeks ago, Nintendo announced its partnership with LEGO, and it's possible that this was just the beginning for our mustachioed pal. We've reached out to Nintendo for further comment, and given that this article hasn't been updated, they have yet to hear back. All right, so the next rumor that followed up was that those three 3D Mario games, being 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, also may be in one package. And that's where I was like, oh, okay, hold on. That's one of those, it's too good to be true. And usually in gaming, as my friend Monty said, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not true. And while I think that is a very negative standpoint to take on, I do think in gaming, often it is. There's always that catch in gaming. It would be really neat to see, though, these three very definitive Mario games in a package. And as someone who has never played Sunshine, for those of you who listen to BFGF AFK, you'll know this, but for those who don't, we have an episode fully dedicated to our favorite GameCube games. And so mine are a bunch of like third-party games, and there's stuff like Star Fox Assault. I love that game, but it's mostly like third-party exclusives, Naruto Clash of Ninja, for example. But I like, you'll hear Laylee talking about Super Mario Sunshine and stuff, and I'm like, I've never played that game. I never played Super Mario Galaxy either, because when I bought my Wii, I thought the Wii motion controller was so cool, and the only reason I wanted it was because I thought, man, if you could swing a sword like that, that'd be cool. And that's how I fell in love with Twilight Princess. I really, really like that game. But point being is, outside of that, I did not play a ton of my Wii. I can't really think of, I liked shooters on it as a kid. I remember, quick story time, quick diversion. There was this time in 8th grade, it was, what was it, finals week, I think it was finals week. And my parents took away all my games. They're like, you need to focus on your studies. The only thing they left was a Wii with Wii Fit. And me being the goddamn video game addict I am, I was like, okay, I'm going to study till 6 o'clock. And as a kid, I was definitely not good at sports, and I was not super athletic. I would like to say, and I say this with good confidence, that nowadays something happened. I am much more athletic, and I am much better at sports. But anyway, back then, did not like that stuff. So for me, it was fascinating in one regard to want to do all that. But B, I just wanted to play a video game, so I played Wii Fit. I played Wii Fit for a couple of hours each night, and I did like yoga and whatnot. And I treated it as like mental preparation. But father and mother did not know that they left under my bed Call of Duty 3, so I quietly sat back and played that. So I do recall playing first-person shooters. on the Wii. I enjoyed the aiming and shooting, although if I went back today, I'd probably yank my hair out. But yeah, like I said, have not played Super Mario Galaxy. So this package would be like a dream for me. I've played a ton of Super Mario 64, like most folks, but I know I've apparently missed out with Super Mario Sunshine and Galaxy. Just growing up, I was never a huge Mario fan. Like, I played Odyssey, don't get me wrong, but even that, people were like creaming their pants over it, and I was sitting there going like, it's a good game, but it's not like a 9 out of 10 good. I think people are becoming a little more conscious, dare I say, of a Nintendo bump. I think Animal Crossing benefited from the current situation. I'm not saying it's a bad game, by the way. I'm just saying I think it did benefit. Just like I think Odyssey benefited from some of the Mario hype. Because it's not like the game's bad where it deserves a lower score. It's just, I think a 9 out of 10, for example, or a 10 out of 10 combines multiple elements of a game, like a story, gameplay. But you can't have just a 10 out of 10 gameplay experience. Just, I don't think as a platformer, Mario Odyssey hit that. Although artistically, I really adored that game's approach of mixing 2D and 3D. I thought that was really cool. Pardon me. I need to take another sip of my drink. You see, one of the things that happens when you talk a lot for a living is, especially on Fridays, my voice gets pretty shot, which is why I end up clearing my throat a lot. But what happens too is I just start salivating a ton because I'm talking so fast, and I'm like, I need a drink. But you need to have a sense of flow throughout the show. So anyway, Mario is taking over your Switch, man. A new Paper Mario title is really interesting. This is kind of the RPG Mario games from way back. I think one was called like 1,000 Year Door. I'm going to have to double check that. 1,000 Year Door. Let's see. Yep, that was a Paper Mario game. I think a lot of people really like that one. I believe that was a GameCube game. So it's good to see that that's coming back. Like for me, Mario RPG, that sounds sick. I love series that aren't supposed to be an RPG that do an RPG. Like I think there was a Sonic game that my friend sent me. My friend Saul. He was like, "Hey, dude, check out this Sonic RPG. It's by BioWare and it's horrible." And I look at it and I'm like, "This looks cool." And there are plenty of other examples. Like, why hasn't SpongeBob done an RPG? That would be sick. Imagine like SpongeBob with like a bubble beam attack or something like that, and you're targeting like certain elements. Oh man, that'd be cool. So the idea of Super Mario taking a role-playing game approach nowadays would be awesome. I just love these mixing and matching of IP that just shouldn't work, but they, creatives just make it happen. You think of a game like Mario and Rabbids, it's XCOM. It's literally XCOM, but they do it so well that you don't even care, and it feels so right. If you like XCOM, I think it's it's like $8 right now. If you have a Switch, and you like XCOM, or maybe you've never played XCOM, give Mario and Rabbids a whirl. For $8, that's, oh my God, you may as well just steal from them, man. Like, it's insane. It's insane. Such a good game. Karak and I have raved about it a lot on this podcast. I would love it. If anyone does try it out, please let me know, because a lot of times when I tell people about games, I do get tweets and messages or comments saying like, "Hey man, I tried this as per your recommendation," or I got into this because of you. And I love to engage in that conversation and just see what you guys think as like new fans. Like, just for me as a lover of games and discussion about games, that excites me. Like, that's a reward for me. It's not even about like sometimes the money or the views. It's cool to see conversation. If you guys need an example, look at my Nier Replicant video. I made a video completely about Nier Replicant Remaster. I was like, this is a little niche, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And it's ended up like gaining some traction over time, which I'm really happy with. It just surpassed 10,000 viewers, which is better than my Neo 2 review, which I spent 80 plus hours playing that game. I mean, I did it because I enjoyed it, but still, like, that's a lot of time for something that completely did not do well on the channel. But anyway, oh man, see, this is what happens. You rotate so quickly that you lose your train of thought. Nier Replicant Remaster. When you look at that video, the comments were really positive. I was definitely like tapping into a whole new viewer base there, and to see people like thrilled about Nier getting a remaster, and just seeing some of the conversations of people talking about like localization, some of the translation errors, and how it can change the interpretation of like weapon descriptions and stuff, and some of the story beats that we drew conclusions to. to me, that's awesome. That's more rewarding than any amount of money or viewership that video could get. It's just learning more from you guys based off that conversation. So I would absolutely love it if like one of you did end up trying out Mario and Rabbids. Just shoot me a tweet. I would love to see what you think. That game is great, and I speak very highly of it for good reason. And at $8, I can guarantee you won't even regret it. That's the thing. It's one of those easy buys if you haven't already. Plus, Nintendo doesn't put games on sale. They put what game was it? They finally, after I think about 2 years now, or it's going to be 2 years this summer, put Octopath Traveler on sale. And that game was $60 for the longest time. And it sold well. It sold I think 2 million copies, or over. It easily surpassed 1 million copies. I think it got over 2 million. But that game sold well. And I was like, oh, that'll eventually go on sale. Nope. Just Nintendo doesn't do sales. So I would take advantage of the $8 for that game. It's insane. But yeah. Apparently, Super Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy are all coming out. A lot of sources were tapping into this. I saw someone saying, I should have just said something in the first place because I knew about this for a while. But these are exciting details and could definitely be a bright spot in the year. Given that they're ports, too, I think maybe Nintendo could get this out to folks relatively easy without having to worry about the virus corrupting anything in the terms of a development pipeline. But that is just, once again, my assumption. Okay, enough about our friend Mario. Let's talk a little bit about, I think I had next on the list. You know what? This is why I should read the topic first, right? Yes, okay, it is Platinum Games. All right. So a fifth Platinum Games announcement is inbound, and this is exciting for me in particular, and I'm sure a lot of you share that same love for Platinum Games. So if you've been paying attention, they had this thing called the Platinum 4, and they've made an announcement each time. So they announced the Wonderful 101. They're remastering that game. Before that, they announced that they are going to be doing their self-published project, their first one ever, called Project GG. They revealed a new Tokyo studio, which will make new kinds of games, which is also exciting. And then their fourth announcement was this joke that they were making a game called Sol Cresta, which was a side-scrolling shooter in collaboration with Hamster Corporation. And people were not sure if it was a joke or not, but it turns out that the announcement is tagged with April Fool's Day, so it is just a joke. But some people were like, I'm cool with this. Anyway, this fifth announcement is on the website. It says the star is tagged with xx.xx.2020, so it's a date that's coming out in 2020. Clicking on it bears no new information. All we can glean from this is there's another Platinum Games announcement coming this year. When is anyone's guess, especially given the mischief Platinum Games has been up to in the past week, says IGN. So there are a couple of places people have speculated about this. Number one is Bayonetta 3 finally gets re-revealed. I think it was 2017 at the Game Awards that they finally revealed Bayonetta 3, and then it just completely disappeared. And they developed how many other games, right? They were doing Astral Chain, Nier Automata, so many other games have come out from them since then. And people are like, where is Bayonetta 3? And Bayonetta's fantastic, by the way. So I would love to see Bayonetta 3. There is also Babylon's Fall, which is another collaboration between Platinum Games and Square Enix, much like what we saw with Nier Automata, although Yoko Taro was at the head of that. But anyway, yes, we do know Babylon's Fall is coming from them. We have not seen much extensive gameplay. There is the way that they market some of these games is so weird. They announced it. The trailer looked dope. It's been a while since then, and the only thing I've seen of this game was a GIF on Twitter that Square Enix posted of some of the combat, and it looks great. But I'm like, all right, you got gameplay on tap somewhere. Why? Usually what happens is you post your gameplay and then you GIF the shit out of that, and then just use that for social media material for your account for weeks and weeks and weeks to engage in discussion and remind people that your shit exists. But they didn't do that with Babylon's Fall. They just posted a GIF or two and then said, hey, we're doing this. It still exists, but no gameplay yet. But there is a small bit of it out there. So hopefully we'll see more of that. And then some have speculated Scalebound may return, although Phil Spencer kind of kiboshed that, saying it's not really a concern going forward. But yeah, there's been a lot of announcements from Platinum Games. As a huge fan of their work, from Transformers to even the bad stuff like TMNT, I replayed that this year actually, just out of sheer boredom because nothing was out. And I was like, this is a 4-hour game, and let's see if I hate it as much. I still hate it, just I hate it a little bit less. There are some things about it, and I couldn't even put my finger on what. I think it was just the animation, the art. The turtles look really good, but some of the enemies are busted. The combat, like the frames and animation, it's just trash. But I hate it a little bit less, probably because it's been enough years for me to relieve some of that hate. But anyway, as a fan of all their work, going into Astral Chain, which was my game of the year last year, Nier Automata, which was my game of the year of 2017. This is just a developer at the top of their game right now. And unlike a lot of other developers at the top of their game, I don't think Platinum Games gets the widespread love that they absolutely deserve. I mean, people really like them, but I just feel like they're kind of like a come and go. It's not like a Naughty Dog or a Bethesda when they were at their prime, or a number of other studios, CD Projekt Red, where like they're just churning out good shit and people are like, oh my God, yes, like constantly. It just doesn't seem like Platinum Games has that grip like so many other companies. Now, I do think the possibility of them teasing this 5th announcement but not doing it in full is because of the pandemic. They're probably thinking to themselves, okay, we have a date of some kind ready, hence what was on the website, but we can't announce that date because that date very well can change. And I believe that The Wonderful 101 is still slated to come out in May, if I do remember correctly. Yes, right here at the bottom of the IGN article, a remaster of The Wonderful 101 is coming to Steam, PS4, and Switch in May. Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to like do any crowdfunding again. Maybe that's why they're holding back, because now's not a good time to crowdfund. People are losing their jobs. The economy's in a really rough state. People are trying to hold on to every penny they've got, which is totally understandable. Now's not the time to really ask for money, which is why I tried to lean back on talking about the Patreon a little bit. I can't stress its importance right now because like CPM, which is, YouTube calls it the quote cost per mile, end quote, which is essentially how much money you make per 1,000 views, like completely got slashed, like 30-40% slash. And so I'm fortunate enough, like many others, to still be making money. It's just considerably less. It's a real like jarringly low number. And given the effort you're still putting in the same amount, it's like, for those of you who are maybe at home like my girlfriend, but you're still getting paid. Imagine if, which this is very well possible, your job said, hey, because you're home and things aren't going well, we're paying you 60% of what you normally make. It's really like weird. It's like, okay, I get it. It just stings. But we're in a good position where we're able to continue trucking on here. I just wanted to make sure people know, the Patreon donations are incredibly appreciated. Makes a really big difference that goes from like panic and worry to just, okay, things are happening in the world, but you guys got me, and I really do appreciate that power in numbers. Most of our patrons are $1, and it helps a ton. So thank you guys so much for that. But anyway, they titled this announcement Bonus Stage, so it may not be the biggest deal, but I'm glad to know that their final announcement wasn't a stupid ass April Fool's joke. That's all that made me happy. I was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. I don't know why anyone, like, why this year would anyone do joke announcements? Maybe they thought they were bringing happiness to the world. I don't know. Like, I was just not in the mood for half that shit. But that's just me personally. All right. That's our last bit of news for this show. Let's go ahead and get into the patron questions. I apologize. Last week, I normally do communicate it, but I did not communicate that we were going to have a guest. And so I didn't get to use any of those patron questions. And given the nature of the intro of this week, I didn't want to just pull too much from last week. I wanted to give people a chance to take in what has been a really busy week and resubmit if they would like to. But there were some really great lingering questions that I hadn't had a chance to talk about yet, but we have a lot. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with, and by the way, I don't play favorites when I pull from these older questions from the previous week, just because I just kind of pick what I know I can answer right away. Such as Natural Calamity says, I have recently gotten a girlfriend and would love to play through some of my favorite games with her. What are some ways that you've used or you recommend to start that up? So this is a really good question because I love BioShock, as a lot of you know. And when I met Laylee, the first thing I did was when she came over, we played BioShock, and she didn't like it. And fortunately, Laylee likes to speak up, which is good. And she told me, I don't like this. Some people will sit there and just kind of be like, oh, yeah, I don't want to upset him. Like, obviously, it's a game. I don't care. But she said, I don't really like this. I gave her Persona 5. She really, really liked it. She fell in love with it. And we talk about Persona a ton now. So I guess my first thing would be to, obviously she's your girlfriend. You got to know her tastes, right? Like what you may think is really good and compelling. You know, you're on my Patron Discord. You know, you watch my videos, and I'm sure you watch many other creators. So you're probably more ingrained in like the finer parts of games. Make sure to separate that from yourselves when you talk to your girlfriend about what game she should play. That doesn't mean like assume she's an idiot and offer her like, you know, play Mario Odyssey, you know, like play these famous brand characters in these games. No, like obviously not that. But just consider their taste. Like for me, I now know Laylee likes Persona. So when I see something like Trails of Cold Steel, or I see something like Danganronpa, I'm like, hey, this would be up your alley. And she does have interest in them. She doesn't have a Vita, sadly. And she doesn't have like a PS4 or now 5, of course, because she wanted to wait to see if there would be backwards compatibility so that she could just play all the other PS4 games. But I digress. Some of those games, she just does not have access to them right now. So I would just say know her taste and don't use your own taste and put it on her. That's like one of the worst things you can do, because then you're probably just going to constantly set her up to not like things. But also, you know, like for me, I know Laylee probably wouldn't like KOTOR. I just kind of know based off her taste, even though I just fanboy about it. If it came out on the Switch, I wouldn't be like, you got to play this. But with something like The Outer Worlds, I'm like, okay, it's an FPS game. There's conversations. She loves dialogue in games. You know what? Yeah, like she said she'll give that a try. Because I gave Animal Crossing a try. So keep that in mind too. There's deals you can make. I did not want to buy Animal Crossing. She was semi-interested in Outer Worlds, but because we're both stubborn, we came to an agreement. I will buy Animal Crossing. I will play it. We'll see if I like it. I ended up being like, oh, it's all right. And she's going to try out the Outer Worlds. Hopefully she likes it. If she doesn't, that's cool. Just encourage an open mind approach. You know, my girlfriend's going to try out Catherine this summer on the Switch. Like, she is interested in it because I raved about it. It's from the same studio that made Persona. So there's that stuff there too. Share what you like. If they don't like it, that's okay. Next question comes from Droop Snoot. What's something in a video game that made your jaw drop due to the talent and ingenuity on behalf of the developers? For me, many FromSoft game bosses just blow me away with how incredible they are. So this is a recent one, but I could touch on it a little bit deeper, is environments. I was looking at Doom Eternal and how sometimes you'll see these beautiful vistas and just some of the most incredible visuals ever. And you're like, how did they do this? Not only to make it look so good, but it like targets where you're going. You know, when you see that vista, it's like, I'm going to be there at some point. That's where the level friggin' ends. And I just see that and go like, man, like how do you plot that out where it's not just a good looking vista? It's actually a place the player goes to. And inside that location is these like incredible arenas. Like, it just bends my mind, man. Some of these people are just artists. I could never fathom doing something on that level. I really couldn't. All right. Let's scroll down a little bit more. Johnny EC, this is our last question from last week, and then we'll get into all the new questions because we do have quite a bit. Johnny EC asks us, have you ever had to review a game you just weren't getting into? How did you deal with it? And what did you do to keep the review as objective as possible? So yeah, this is a really good question, because when it comes to reviews, you have to not only be able to interpret your own enjoyment, which may sound easy, like did I have fun, did I not? But also, if you didn't love something that much, be able to objectively talk about the game through the perspective of someone who may enjoy this style of games. So let me take a look at Metro Exodus and Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I just went to my review playlist, and right when I was scrolling down, I was like, aha, these two. So I did a review for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. It was kind of like an interesting split on discussion. A lot of people disliked it because, you know, I didn't speak too favorably of it. I called the game a complete mess. But at the end of that video, for like, I don't know how many people actually got through it all, I said to go buy it. And that's the part that a lot of people missed, I think, in their ability to complain. You see, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is still a messy game. Its progression systems are horrible. It's layered like a goddamn mobile title, but it is a really fun beat 'em up. It has a great art style. There's great replayability there. There's a ton of modes. There's now excellent DLC. There's a ton of Marvel characters to play as. The levels are cool. And so I objectively can step back and look at Ultimate Alliance 3 and be like, you know what? Does this progression system and how messy it is and how they kind of watered down the gameplay as well to not as like for example, I loved Ultimate Alliance 1's gameplay because it was simple where it was a light attack, a heavy attack, but certain enemies were weak to a stun or a sweep or a knock up or just a normal combo. And that made it just, you'd pay attention to the enemy attacking you. There was a detail built into the combat system that Ultimate Alliance 3 doesn't have. It's just button mashing, abilities, rinse and repeat. But that doesn't make it bad, right? Like, I love Dynasty Warriors games, so I understand it. I have firsthand experience of understanding it, but also at the same time, I know there are people who that won't matter for. And you could say that about any review, right? Like, my complaints wouldn't matter for them. But the idea is being able to separate these complaints and say, you know what? Was this so overwhelmingly bad that I should tell people to stay away? Same thing with Ori and the Will of the Wisps before we get into Metro Exodus. That game ran like crap for me my first 3 hours. I could have easily dropped that game and said, this is a sack of shit. I'm done. Goodbye. Part of it is having patience. Part of it's having patience to see a game through and understand what the developer's intention was. With Metro Exodus, it's a little bit different because with that opinion, I came out way after the fact because people kept like going on my back about how like I had not made my Metro review that I promised back in like February, and I don't think it was for like many months later that I came out with it when it was just about to release on Steam or something, which timed out well. It was not intentional, I promise you that, but it definitely did time out well. Or actually, did it come out on Steam? No, actually, the comments were saying it hasn't come out on Steam yet, so I'm happy to see this late review. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of that game because I felt it stepped away from the strengths of the Metro series. So as a longtime fan of Metro, I look at it and say, here's what Metro is strong with. Do the things that they do now, opening it up. Does that appeal to me, or does that appeal to a wider audience? And so that's why you want to leave it open-ended. That's why my reviews have become very long, because the more details for the consumer, the better. The more that they're able to see of the game and understand what it is, they can make a decision before you have to tell them what it is. I don't know. I doubt, quite frankly, even when it comes to Karak, most people go, he gave it a buy. I'm going to go blindly buy this game, right? You want to hear the context of the reasoning for the purchase. And that's where the separation comes in. So that's why, for example, in my Doom Eternal review, I want to tell you guys everything I loved about it, from arenas to how it reminded me of Halo and how much I adored that campaign, and just from top to bottom, breaking down my love for it. And somewhere in between there, something may stick out to you that you like or dislike. That's just the nature of reviews. But that's why you want to put it all on the table. That's why, even though I loved Doom Eternal, I still made a section. All right, I'm sorry, I should say this. Not only did I love Doom Eternal, I called it one of the best first-person shooters ever made. And despite that, I still made time in my video for a section about what I thought were flaws for the game. I think that's always important to consider. A lot of people brush flaws under the rug just because the game's so good, or one thing that just, oh my God, I could pull my hair out at. I wish I could find the Twitter thread, but people were asking about review processes, and I saw a bunch of members in the game media saying, we don't take notes, we just write down what comes to mind because we believe that's the most natural way, and that's the way that you know what comes to mind is what's important. It's like, no, definitely not. And I'm not telling anyone how to review their games, but definitely not. Not true at all. As someone who reviews games, and I'm friends with many reviewers, a lot of us take notes because we're not superhuman. There are many times I have been writing the notes for my reviews. I sit down to script and I look and I see I missed something and I'm like, that was important, and I just forgot about it. And that was already in my notes and I just tabbed over it because I write my notes, for those who don't know, as I go along in the review. Like I just, from the moment I start to the moment I finish, it's just bullet points. There's no story section, gameplay section, sound section. It's just jotted down notes as I go along. And so I got to section all of those out as I retype my script. And sometimes you'll miss a part and be like, what is this note for? And you'll try to slide it in somewhere. And in that process, I also note that just, you forget some things, and I wouldn't have considered them. And that's just part of it. And that's why you see these reviews from these major outlets that come out are like 5 fucking minutes long because they don't take notes. They don't write the whole thing out. They're talented in the way of compressing it. But anyway, this has become a whole tangent. I need a drink. I'm having this V8 Tropical Splash. I cannot recommend it enough. Really good drink. All right. This week's questions begin with Blade. In regard to The Last of Us 2 being delayed due to physical copies needing to be made, what are your thoughts of a physical release being delayed and a digital version releasing on time? You know what's funny? My friend Colin Moriarty of Colin's Last Stand, he didn't do this, but he's producing for his new game, Sacred Symbols, or Twin Breaker, a Sacred Symbols adventure. He released it digitally for $10 on the PlayStation Store. You can get it now on the Vita, on the PS4. And I say this, I should let you guys know, I do work with Colin. I work on Colin's Last Stand. I produce videos there bi-weekly, and he does pay me. So just keep that in mind. I'm not telling you to go buy it. I'm just saying keep this in mind, just so you know if there's bias or not. I think I'm well removed enough from it to speak objectively. But point being, to answer your question, he released it this month, at the end of March, digitally. But the physical releases for the Vita and the PS4 is being handled by East Asia Soft, and that's not coming till May. So granted, his game is not on the level of The Last of Us Part 2, but there is that ability to do a separate release. We've seen limited run games do it, where indie games come out digitally and then they do a physical launch afterwards. I don't know why in a digital age it does matter so much for these companies to make the physical release happen. We've seen games media constantly pound you over the head, not only media, but also other content creators pound you over the head of the dying physical media. And it is true in a manner of speaking. I look at most noteworthy being, before all this happened, Borderlands 3's numbers digitally. 70% of the people who played that game, I believe, were digital. And that was before any of this happened. Nothing was wrong with the internet. Nothing was wrong with the world. Before all this, it was a huge digital spike. So why is all of a sudden that not happening when it's a time to go digital? Well, as we stated earlier, when it came to The Last of Us Part 2, that's just because of the internet right now. YouTube is going to go down to 480p, and just naturally, you can bump up the quality later on. But when it comes to loading in the videos, it's not doing it in 4K, 1080p, 720p. It's doing it in 480 off the bat, and you can change your quality from there to help, with the internet bandwidth. With that being said, though, putting everyone in a pipeline to download the game when PSN's throttling download speeds, it's just not a recipe for success. And I guess PlayStation foresaw maybe a PR disaster if people couldn't download it, or crashing the internet. I don't know. I really don't know. But I just think ultimately now's the time to go digital, and you'll probably see some games do it, or you may see a stagnated physical launch. It depends how much the company feels confident in their digital release, and time will tell on that. Brown Ninja writes in, "Hi, Matty. I hope the virus doesn't kill you." Jeez. Well, thank you. I'm staying inside, and I hope you are too. Anyways, I was wondering if there are any games that you used to dislike but now really like. Also, will you ever bring Evil Corporate Matty on as a guest for the podcast? Given the length of these podcasts, I don't know if I could talk like this for like an hour and a half, but that would definitely be interesting. It would definitely be interesting. Like talking in my normal voice, like my throat is killing me right now. It really is. But it's also because I talk a mile a minute and I don't give myself time to breathe, which I'm going to do now as I take another drink. You could really hear that swallow that time. That was a loud one. Anyway, any games that I used to dislike but really like, and vice versa. So we were actually just talking about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I haven't put my hands on it, so I don't know if this will stay true. But I have been really interested in its DLC, the Fantastic Four DLC, bringing in Doctor Doom, a whole new storyline. There's a gauntlet mode. They added a ton of new heroes to play with. I am interested in that. I'm usually pretty, and not in a closed-minded way, I am usually pretty set in my reviews, because I view it as, even if you decide for yourself, if there are people, like I said earlier, who do wait to hear my thoughts on a game, I think it's very important that I consider, the $60. And so I don't want to, steer anyone wrong. And if I say I don't like something and it ends up being better down the line, I feel a little foolish, even if it's not my fault. Like a game gets updated, like, let's say Fallout 76, right? I've made coverage, good and bad on that game, but a lot of it was just highlighting some of the wrongdoings of Bethesda. And if I come out later on and say Wastelanders is good and go buy the game, I mean, that can't be helped, right? But in the situation of like, I don't know, Far Cry New Dawn, like I confidently was like, stay away from that game. I'm being genuine about this because I like opening up during Patron questions. I'm looking at my review playlist now. Is there any, like, there are games I look at and I'm like, I want to love that. We Happy Few is one I'm looking at right now. Oh my God, I wanted to love the shit out of that game. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see here. Kingdom Come Deliverance, Monster Hunter World, I was very positive on. Lego Marvel Superheroes, I was really positive on. South Park, The Fractured Butthole, I was kind of like buy that on a sale, which I don't stay away from, or I don't disagree with. Just seeing if there's anything in this review playlist. I mean, I'm proud of myself that I haven't seen anything. Maybe Prey. I guess maybe Prey. I like that a lot more nowadays than I did back then, but I didn't like tell people to not buy it. And I guess maybe I'm looking at it as too much of a black and white approach. Yeah, man, I'd say I've done a pretty good job. Yeah, Sniper Elite 4, I don't take that back. Halo Wars 2, don't take that back. Definitely don't take back The Last Guardian as the most disappointing game of 2016 for me. I can't really think of anything. I really can't. There's just natural online games that have improved over time, but most games all the games I see here I've reviewed. I stick with my score. I guess you could say with Fallout 4. I did say with Fallout 4 that the original game was incredible, and I kind of dumbed it down because I sort of took the fanboy goggles off. Okay, here's one, actually. Here's one. I still like this game, but definitely not as much. Quantum Break review. Arguably Xbox One's best exclusive yet. And this was as of 2016. I thought it was really interesting as a concept, but ever since I beat it, I've never had like a desire to go back and play it again. That's definitely one maybe I would redo for sure. I don't think I stand by that one. So it's been since 2016 that I felt that way. I'm glad we were able to dig through the history of Matty together there. That was cool. Crazy Herb writes in, hey, Matty, hopefully you find yourself in good health right now. Thank you. Yes, but I should mention this. I should have said this in the beginning. Like, I'm healthy. I'm fine. And in this day and age, that's a good thing. With all this talk of game delays, Phil Spencer has been pretty insistent that the Xbox Series X will be releasing this fall. With this in mind, do you think a console launch with only one major launch title will hurt the console, or will it give the system time to breathe as the rest of the world recovers? This is a really interesting question because I think a lot of people don't realize companies can approach things in any way they want. Like, it's not mandatory that we have 3 launch games like we did with the Xbox One and PS4, where I think the PS4 was Knack, Killzone, and something else, whereas Xbox was Rise, Dead Rising 3, and something else as well. It's something with these third games. Can't remember them. But I don't think they have to release them in duos or trios. They can just release one game with it. I do wonder if Halo will be ready. I don't think Xbox wants to rush that. I think from what I've heard from sources, Fable isn't until next year. So do they still announce that this year during their Xbox Digital Showcase? I would say so. There's been apparent, although it turned out to be fake, there were apparent gameplay leaks. There were like trailer leaks. It was on Mixer, for God's sakes. Like, they've been toying with that game for a while, putting it into its database and whatnot. I'd imagine they have some type of trailer ready. So I do think it's feasible for them to launch a game with this. And the reason this is also possible and why Xbox is insistent about this is, number one, I think there is a benefit no matter what the state of the economy is that you get out first. I think there's just the benefits of the conversation, the hands-on approach, knowing you're there first, bringing that experience to people as soon as possible. I think there is a benefit. Doesn't mean rushing and compromising it is worth it. No, and I don't think Xbox would do that because you only get to launch a console once. Really once every couple of years. Sure, you got your half steps, but still, man. So I think people do need to consider, and I'm sure you've thought of this, Crazy Herb, because I know you're more in the Xbox system, I believe. I know you're on Switch a lot, but still. A lot of people don't think about the fact that Xbox does have this kind of pay-as-you-go program where you can pay $24 a month for your Xbox. And even with the economy in shambles, if we can find a job, I think most of us could afford, $24 a month to pay for our system and our game with that. If that's what Xbox said, or if they said like $30 a month, you get your Xbox Series X and a game, and you got to pay $30 a month for this, we'll say 18-month window. That's not too bad. I don't think it would be that long. I think that would actually be like way more money than you actually spent. But point being is, if Xbox gives you the ability to customize that package, let me pay $10 a month for the next 30 months. I don't know. Something like that. Math. But point being is, if Xbox did something along those lines, that'd be pretty cool, because then people could just pick it up day one. And since they've grown so much through Game Pass and just that increments of money each month from a group of people, I'm sure they're not opposed to doing that with their consoles. So I think that's also why Phil Spencer has been kind of insistent that it's coming out this year. And it's good that he keeps communicating it. It's not like how we do nowadays where, oh, last week he said this. Pardon me. He's been saying it pretty frequently. All right. I feel like I'm getting trolled with this name. Big Daddy writes in, how likely do you think it is that Cyberpunk 2077 gets delayed again because of the pandemic? And what other games do you think are in danger of the same fate? Many are in danger of the same fate. But I don't know how realistic it is for some companies to hold on to these almost finished products for months and months and months and not get them out the door. I feel like that may hurt them more. In the case of CD Projekt Red, they very well may not delay it, because by the time it comes out in September, as it's supposed to, that's also where it's been said that things in the world will start to settle down. We do hope it happens in the summer. I have not read on this, so don't take it for a fact, and I don't want to focus on it too much, because I know these podcasts are good takeaways. But just know, I have heard people say that, like, when it comes to intense heat or heat in general, the virus doesn't last long, and that maybe during the summer there will be this period of breathing where we can go back to our normal lives, and maybe that would be good. And if that is the case, a lot of these games can pick development back up, so that come September, maybe we'll have some time back at home where we have to social distance once more as we work on a vaccine or a cure. I think more so treatment would be the more realistic option to gradually get rid of it, kind of like a cold. You take a over-the-counter type of thing, and over time it goes away. But yeah, if it is actually coming out in September like it's supposed to, provided things go that way, maybe it will be not as impacted. But as it stands now, I think CD Projekt Red is not releasing that game this year. All right, Grimglade writes in and says, not sure it's too late, but with the recent surge of really good JRPGs, amen to that. It got me thinking, what is a niche genre you really would like to see a rise in popularity and quality, whether that is another regional niche or an undeserved genre? This is a good question, and immediately what came to mind was visual novels. I think Danganronpa would be a game almost anybody would love, because everybody out here, even I, who's not a huge fan of books, I do not mind reading them, but I'm not a huge fan of them. But Danganronpa is like reading a book. There is interaction, there is gameplay, you have the trial and you're using truth bullets. But for the most part, you are just kind of sitting back and just flipping through text. And if you're capable of reading a book and being really enjoying it rather, then a book with really detailed art and interactive characters and sound should catch your attention even more. But it's just hard to sell people on a visual novel. It's like, I'll go read a book. It's like, no, it's more than that. And I would love for people to actually understand that. There are so many games in that genre that are just incredible stories. Like The Somnium Files. I know Grimm has raved about that, saying he likes it more than Danganronpa. And I think that's crazy, because I love Danganronpa to death. And The Somnium Files is one I would love to get to this time around. As things start to slow down after Final Fantasy VII and Wastelanders, that is kind of on my radar as it stands. I really, really am interested in that game. But yeah, there's also, I think it's called, what else is there? Zero Escape. That's one that comes to mind. There's so many great ones. Steins Gate, just a lot of great visual novel series, and I don't think people give them enough of a chance when you could be captured by some of the best storytelling with cool art and sounds. And even in the case of Danganronpa, it does, as each series entry goes on, plays more like a video game, which I know is like, it's a fucking video game in the first place, Maddie, but I think people need to be more open-minded to that. I would really, really think that'd be good. All right, great question. We got rapid fire questions from Mike Fury. As always, we will rip right through them. Thoughts on Nier Automata coming to Game Pass is number one. This is great. The more people that can play Nier, the better. I believe they're going to get the Become as Gods edition, which means that folks will get hands-on with the DLC, which is just like an arena mode. But still, more content. If you have not played Nier, you got Game Pass, you got nothing to do. Oh, please, man, just please play it. It is still in my top 10 games of all time. And for those who need a point of reference, I have not put a game in my top games of all time since before Nier. It was BioShock Infinite. And so there you go. There's a point of reference. Although BioShock Infinite slid out of there for Nier, just so you guys know, in the last, I think BioShock Infinite came out in 2013, I think around March. So since March of 2013, only 2 games have slid in there. And the one that's currently sitting there is Nier. And I don't see that getting bumped out, quite frankly. Number 2, what other games do you think will be delayed? Okay, I'm going to skip this one. We've already answered that. With all this free time opening up, what new projects or skills will you be partaking in is number 3. So Laylee and I talked about this on BFGFAFK. And, we really talked about how there's this social pressure now that you have time, you've got to do things. And it's like, well, don't overwhelm yourself too, right? Like, well, my voice went away there. Now you can tell it's really going away. I'm like, right? Don't worry, we're almost at the end of the show. I swear my drinking and my will go away soon enough. But, I've been really, if I were to tackle anything right now, I've been really invested in my work, and I've been taking that creative and extra energy and extra time and really sinking into making better videos. I think they've been better in the terms of editing and enjoyment and segmenting them and continuity. And I've noticed that the view time has gone up yet again, which is really what I'm looking for. Like, I want people to watch my videos, and seeing that we're sitting around right now 6 minutes, and I usually upload 10+ minute videos. That makes me really happy because it means that people are staying. And I know it may sound like, don't you want them watching the whole thing? It's kind of like the law of numbers. Like, not everyone's going to watch the full thing. Not everyone has time for it or interest in that topic. So to know that most people monthly are watching more than half of what I'm putting out there, that's really nice to see. So I've been putting my energy in that, but I've been really inspired when I look at games like Persona 5 Royal, when I watch like AEW, I've been really inspired to create something because I get this feeling when I'm playing or I'm watching, like, as some of you guys know, I would love to do indie wrestling, and I'm like, man, it'd be so cool to be part of a brand like AEW. Like, they just look like they have a good time. I listen to a lot of podcasts with their talent and some of the people who help run that show, and it sounds like they just genuinely have fun, and that seems to be rare outside of that company in wrestling, and it just looks enjoyable. And when I look at Persona 5 and I look at the art, the menus, the music, the gameplay, the characters, the writing, I'm just like, I would love to be a part of or create something special like that. And I have like this one golden idea that I wouldn't want to share. And I say golden idea, it's like a remake of an old game, but in like 8-bit. And it's a game that I really like, and I would just love to do that, just to rework a game. That's kind of like my idea, because I wouldn't make money off of it. I can't take someone else's property and make money on it, but it would just be really cool to do that and get some attention for that. I would love to create something that excites or informs or gets people feeling the way I feel when I see something creatively interesting or fun or cool. That would be what I want. When it comes to skills, I'm not a fan of like art, drawing. I guess, like, I've been honing my craft more, so I feel like my videos have become a little bit better because of all this extra time. I've been like working on my thumbnails a little bit more when I'm doing not the template that you guys usually see. I try to switch it up a little bit and try, like, you look at my reviewing the reviews for Doom Eternal, that video did pretty well, and I think part of it is because not only the content was solid, but it was a different style of thumbnail, and it kind of painted a picture in people's heads of what the video would be about. And so I've been trying to just take this time to hone my craft, but I would love to, so a lot of my hobbies are like martial arts. I'm no longer in that because I didn't have the money for it. Hockey, can't go play ice hockey now. I could just shoot on a net outside, but there's a difference between shooting standing still and shooting while in motion. Completely different, actually, because you can just shift your weight a lot easier when you're not moving, where when you're moving, there's a lot of balancing acts and stuff. So another thing I've really thought about is creating like a product. Like, what is something I can make that the world would find interesting or hasn't been made yet? So that's an idea I've been tinkering with. Another one that I've been interested in is writing writing a book, or I have a good book idea, one that I do plan on pursuing down the line. Whether it's successful or not, we'll see. But also, I would love to make like a story, something that excites people or people find useful. I guess I find validation in that. Number 4, is there a review coming for Trails of Cold Steel? If no, then give me your thoughts on the game, because I'm trying to get into it. That's part of my problem, right? Like, this is a niche game, doesn't have a lot of attention, and probably as I say this out loud, I will change my mind, but I had this idea because the 4th entry of Trails of Cold Steel is going to be the last one. That's what I read. And I have only played 25 hours of the first one, and I really miss it. I've been playing Persona 5 Royal. I've been loving it, but I know what Persona 5 is, and I'm just excited about the new content there. But I really want to get through Trails of Cold Steel. And I was thinking, like, maybe I'll sit down and just play 1, 2, 3, and then make this gigantic project talking about them completely. And like how each one's, where they stand, and what do they bring, what do they introduce. But then I thought, what would be more beneficial, not only for exposing the series more, but probably just my workload and the investment of time versus the reception and the building of the video would probably be to just play and finish the first game and just make kind of one of those, like, the RPG that no one's talking about style video that I've made multiple times since, like, Vampire. That would probably be more realistic. So I'm not going to talk about it too much more, because I do have projects in mind for it, and you will see it sometime this year. All right. Kylan521 with the last question. If you can wipe one video game from your mind and play it again, what game would that be? Hope you're staying safe and healthy. Thank you once again. I appreciate all of you sending me well wishes, and I send them in return. So one game I could wipe from my mind and play again. I'm gonna take KOTOR out of the answer, and I'm gonna say Persona 4 Golden. I was going to say Fallout 3 when I first saw this question, but I'm going to say Persona 4 Golden, because with that game, I had a really interesting experience. So what happened with that title was I played it and I got a specific ending where it was not the real ending, let's just say. And I'm not talking about the golden ending. I'm talking about, like, I didn't get the normal Persona 4 ending. I walked away with what's called the bad ending. And I loved the game. I raved about how good Persona 4 was for so long. And then before Persona 5 came out, I was like, I'm going to play every Persona game leading into that. So I played, I should say, ones I liked. I'm not too interested in 1 and 2. Maybe one time I will go back to them. But I played 3. I beat that. And then I played 4. And I beat that. But what happened in 4 Golden is I actually got the real ending. So I got to see Maria's dungeon. I got to see all this new story. I got to see the snow trip. Like, stuff I did not even know, like snowflakes playing while it snowed in Inaba. I was like, dude, I missed all of this. And I could cry thinking about it. Like, it was such a special time. I was like, this game that I already loved, I missed 30 hours of content. And now I just sing to the high heavens about how great that game is, because I was like, I loved it at its bad ending. And I've seen there's also like the accomplice ending. There's other endings you can get. I'm not talking about that ending. I got the ending where I got the killer wrong. And it just, you go home after that and that's it. I was like, that was a great game. Like 55 hours. Awesome. Oh man, boy, was I wrong. So yeah, that would be my answer, Kylan. And with that, we wrap up all of our questions for this week. And I just got to say, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you guys. I really, really do. Man, it has been a really tough week, as I said in the introduction. And I'm just very blessed that even if I don't have like the biggest channel, I don't have like the most explosive viewership, I'm proud of what I've built here. And I think we are doing well and we're building into something special. But I'm just happy that I have such an amazing community. Because I think back to Fallout 4, and there was just some really toxic people that during that year where my channel was growing, I interacted with, and not all of them were bad, but it was just a really anxious time in my life. And part of that was from some of the people I ended up meeting through the platform and interacting with on the platform. And it was just really tough. And to sort of weed that out, that negative energy, that's so hard to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like everyone's perfect, but like to weed out that negative energy and create like a true community for the podcast, for my Discord on Patreon, for Twitter, and to just connect. That's more valuable than anything, really. It is. And that's why I don't sweat the numbers, because I know if I had to go get like a full-time job, like I'd still do this. I shouldn't say full-time job. This is my full-time job, but you guys get what I'm saying. Outside of creating content, I would still do this because I just love to connect with other gamers, and I feel your passion, and it's what gets me over these humps and these tough times in life, where I just, I work really hard and just, not to the point where I make myself sick or anything. I do give myself relaxation time. Like I take weekends off, but, you guys make it worthwhile is what I'm saying. So thank you so much for staying tuned for episode 246 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. Hopefully I made this worth your while on my own. I really appreciate, once again, each and every single one of you, and we will catch you guys with Juicehead next week on episode 247, and headlining that will more than likely be us talking about Wastelanders and what we hope to see from that, unless news changes and maybe it gets delayed again. Who knows? We can't read the future, and it's a crazy world right now. So I'm going to go get something to drink and rest my throat for the rest of the night. I'll talk with all of you soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.